Testing.
Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. This is the school committee meeting on Wednesday, July 29th. We're starting at 5:33 p.m. and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Start introductions with Councilor Harriman.
Scott Harriman, City Council Representative to the School Committee.
Linnea Hawkins, Ward 5.
Elizabeth Eames, Ward 3.
Janet Bowden, Ward 2.
Luke Jensen at large.
Phoenix McLaughlin, Ward 1.
Jake Langley, Superintendent.
Karen Puckett, Assistant Superintendent.
And members Harper, Hurd, as well as our newest addition member, Lavasser, all had prior commitments this evening. So with that, we'll come to agenda item number 2, which is to receive and potentially vote on the ESEA Annual Federal Programs presentation. I'll turn it over to the superintendent. Just getting the slides going for anyone watching at home.
I think I had it in a PDF. Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Jake. So I'll begin. Good evening. My name is Jenny Darrigan. Oop, is that working with the, okay. I'm the District Federal Program Coordinator for Lewiston Public Schools, and I work on the teaching and learning team. One of my roles is to support the coordination of the federal grant application process and support the development and implementation of our district and school-wide CNAs. So for the purpose of this meeting, CNA and the work that we do stands for Comprehensive Needs Assessment. Our comprehensive needs assessments that I'll be referring to tonight are available on our website as well as in your school committee packet. And that's where you'd be able to take a look at those. I want to, before I get into some details around this work, I wanted to make sure I recognize Steve Maroon. He's our district continuous school improvement coordinator. And he leads much of the CNA process alongside the building principals and their stakeholder teams at their buildings. Steve is also our data guy, and he's using platforms or tools that he's built in-house for our district, along with like state collected data to build and update all of the CNAs. That's a huge part of the work, and I wanted to make sure I took a moment to mention his dedication to all of that. So for the agenda for today, ultimately, I would like to just provide an overview of ESEA funding, explain the process and criteria involved in determining the use of funds through our CNA work, present the goals and priorities of the upcoming FY27 federal application before we officially submit it. And then facilitate or let everyone know about the platform that's available to offer public comment for anyone who's interested in speaking to or making comments about how we plan to use our funds. So on the next slide, what this shows is the 4 funding sources that are all part of the ESCA group, Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV. We are eligible as a district to receive these funds annually. We don't automatically receive the funds, however, but we basically apply to have access to them. We do specific planning, application work, and reporting, and all of those pieces are part of the securing piece. So, for example, one of our program insurances is to participate in the state assessment. So that's if we participate in the state assessment, then we can be awardees of title funding. And that's just one example. There are many others. Let's see. Moving to Title I on the next slide. The next 4 slides are basically just going to show our trend of funding over the last several years. It is definitely a little bit small, but what you can note is that it's a 9-year glance at where our funding has landed each year. So Title I specifically, a year ago, we had seen a decrease in Title I funding for our district of a good chunk of money. It was $177,000 reduction. This year, we're seeing a decrease of about $39,000. So I wanted to go forward and explain that a little bit. For Title I specifically, of the 4 funding streams, the state of Maine is going to receive an allocation amount from the federal government, and depending on where the state of Maine ranks amongst all other states, determines our state amount. And so our state amount would just pass on and affect our district amounts. Lewiston is the highest receiver of Title I in the state of Maine. So yep, that's just shows our little bit of reduction there at the end. Moving on to Title II, this year, we are seeing an increase in Title II of about $6,000. So a small increase, but in the direction we like to see. For Title III, we're seeing an increase of about $14,000. Again, something we like to see. And Title III has a different formula than Title I and our other titles. Title III is very specific to the number of multilingual students in your district. So that's always going to fluctuate with that information. And then lastly, Title IV, we are seeing a decrease of about $19,000 in this enrichment Title IV grant. So, yep, the trend, again, I apologize. I do notice that it's small up there, but it was just sort of to show the committee and others of, sometimes we're going up a little bit with our funding. Sometimes we're going down or really maintaining. And most of the time it's not drastic, but it is changes, and they do impact. Of course, the decrease impacts our budgets. We have very full title budgets. On this next slide, we have put together just a few of the ongoing tasks that are related to applying and securing our ESCA funding. Each year, we have district teams at each school that conduct the work of the CNA. We have a district level team that conducts the work of the district CNA and really looks at district-wide data. And our final drafts, let's see, up here, our final drafts are submitted to the state of Maine, which include all of our strategic planning work, all of our use of fund requests, and then ultimately shared again within our federal application, which is a large document that is part of my responsibility to put together. So all of those pieces live independently of each other, but they do all collapse to ensure we can apply for and receive the money each year. So briefly, just a little bit more information about the CNA that I haven't mentioned yet. Let's see, the CNAs are required. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. If we run Title I school-wide programs, which we do in Lewiston Public Schools, we're required to conduct the business of the CNA. So in addition to conducting that work, we've really been actively trying to improve the work of our teams and buildings and have a real emphasis towards school improvement. And as you look through the district this district and school-wide CNAs, through the sections, you're going to notice that it's very comprehensive and very specific to what work we're doing to meet our goals, to move the needle for student achievement in every aspect of our work with students in schools. The stakeholder groups for CNAs are building administrators, teachers, school counselors, parents, some when we can get folks to commit to that, some district support from different departments. And those folks meet a minimum of 2 times a month, sometimes more, depending on need. So those groups are very active and very regularly having conversation around the work of the CNA. For a snapshot, each school level has their own school level goals, but the district has really like an umbrella of goals. We are required to do a literacy or reading and math goal, and then we can have ultimately as many goals as we want, but we really want to be focused. And we've had a lot of attention on attendance, rightfully, over the last few years. And so it continues to be our third goal here. Oops, let me see. I got to make my page a little bigger so I can see this. So for reading, we're looking to increase our percentage of students in grades 1 through 10. And again, these are students taking the state assessment. That is our measure for that. Whose growth percentile exceeds the 50th percentile in NWEA reading by 2%. From spring 2026 to spring 2027. We need our goals to be measurable. We need to look at the trends of growth over the last several years and decide what's really attainable and feasible. So all of that is considered when our teams are making goals, these specific to our district team. The word preliminary in there right now for data is because we've received all the data, but there's a validation process that happens after the state releases that to districts. So that word is in there only because Steve wanted to make sure that process was just transparent, that if there's a little bit of movement on those percentages, it's because they're doing a validation. Happens every summer, happens to all of the data that we receive from the state. We do a review. So mathematics is a very similar goal, and we're hoping to increase by 2% as well during our next administration using spring. For attendance, to increase the percentage of students with no absence issues by 2%, 2%, excuse me, from the spring as well. And that's measured by attendance records for our active students, which is something we've done. Yes.
I had a question for you about the NWEA goal numbers. This came to mind when I was looking at them in the report. So is the 50th percentile, is that standardized to the state test takers or is that a national?
A national, yes.
So I was interested in that, to be honest. So 50th percentile, then on average, that means 50% of the test takers are at or below that level. And it seemed like for reading, almost every school, if not every school, was above that mark.
Yes, we had a good amount of growth we also had, I'm not sure revision is the right word, of the norms for NWEA. So we had a couple we had that happen, and we also definitely had growth. It was a successful last administration, and especially in the area of growth. I'm not sure if anyone else would like to speak to that more, but
Well, I just wanted to say, I mean, that
Yeah.
it was better than I expected, because what that is telling me
Yeah.
is that the schools are doing above average on reading. There's more to do on math.
Mhm.
It also may be a longer term question, but it did make me wonder if it seems like the goal is to increase 2% each year, and that is going to run into some mathematical limit, right? If the 50th percentile is the standard.
does.
But anyways, I thought that was nice to see, particularly on the reading side. So I just wanted to mention that.
Absolutely. And to speak to what the state looks to see in our growth goals is that they're definitely looking for us to move in the direction of improvement. So we do have a lot of conversation around that. And we've had years where we've decreased, right? And our goal is still to increase. But 2% has been something you've seen before if you've looked at these goals, and it's been a comfortable spot again for this upcoming year to name those.
Did you have a hand up? Could you use the microphone?
Sorry. It was about defining growth. So this is not, they're making 50%. They're hitting the 50th percentile. They're in the result. They're hitting the 50th percentile in the growth measure.
Correct.
So I
And
just
they
wanted
would,
to
yes,
have that stated out loud.
Yeah.
Thanks.
absolutely. One celebration I wanted to, I often get the question about results from last year. And we do many of the results of our goals can be found within our CNA, but we report them out to the state in November. So that's the time we complete our performance report and have a bit more of a go-to spot for that report out. But in each CNA, there are the results of our year prior goals. So those are all in there for folks to look at. And one highlight is that every single school and our district as a whole met their chronic absenteeism goal this last school year. So that's a big deal for and testament to the work that's being done, the focused work in attendance, and we just have so much more to do in that area, but that was a real celebration to share. For Title I, this is a brief overview of the purpose, the goals, a school-wide approach, requirements, and just a little bit about our Title I initiative here. That I'm going to hop to the next slide and just show a bit. I'm happy to return to that and explain anything further if anyone had questions. But this is Title I is our largest funding stream for sure. But these next 4 slides, the first one being Title I, are just going to break down some of the expenses or costs that we're planning to use our money for this upcoming school year. So we have in Title I, we have some district projects that serve to serve the district as a whole. And so they're allowed to be labeled as district projects, and more than 90, I should get the percentage, probably 96% of our Title I money is right at school levels for all of the school-wide project items listed here. So for district projects, we have a coordinator position. We have equitable share projects, which is fancy for non-public schools. Any non-public schools that are in the city of Lewiston, we're required to serve and support with title funding. I have non-applicable up there for this year because we actually lost 2 of our non-public schools that had been regularly participating. They moved out of the city, out of town. They moved out of Lewiston. So we don't have any non-public schools choosing to participate. They have that choice every year. So that'll be something you see through each title. We are required to do that work, but we actually have no non-publics participating. That hasn't happened in the 9 years that I've been working in Lewiston. We've had some steady work with our non-publics. We have a homeless program project as a district project, and we have a required parent engagement project as a district project as well. And for school-wide projects, math interventionists, literacy interventionists, reading recovery teachers, literacy coaches, math coaches, a lot of PD for use of Title I in a variety of different areas, and student instructional supplies. The asterisk there is 42 positions are currently either fully funded or partially funded with Title I. We have a lot of split positions just in order to maintain folks working with kids. So I wanted to point that out. Title II is our professional development grant, although it can be used for a few other areas that are aligned with professional development or teacher support. I'll hop to the list of our use of funds, but we have professional development, whether this is in the form of workshops or having folks come and workshop on site with us for LPS teachers and our school leaders. Academic interventionists we're allowed to use Title II funds to pay for folks because they are ultimately supporting our teachers with their work, classroom work. We pay for one stipend in particular, our building-based new staff support facilitator stipend. And then PD is, again, a long list of a variety of focused PDs and really goes off the work of what our PD calendar and PD folks have decided in that way. And again, I just noted that equitable share was non-applicable this year for that. Title III is our multilingual funding stream for ESEA. And the notable part for Title III is that this one especially must be supplemental to our core. I mean, in theory, all of our title funds are supplemental. But with our school-wide pieces that we have in our other titles, we have a lot of flexibility with that on how we spend our money. But Title III is very, very clear and specific about supplemental. So this list here for uses of Title III are above and beyond what we're required to do by law or required to have in place and to serve our multilingual students. Lastly, for Title IV, enrichment grant is what I really refer to this grant often. These are 4 activities for students that are above and beyond our typical literacy, math, and core work in our schools, often touching enrichment projects or other projects that we have happening in schools. We have a behavior interventionist for Title IV this upcoming year, our district instrument project, which has been very exciting. We continue to grow our, what's what I'm looking for, just strings band. The numbers of instruments are growing, and the numbers of kids being able to participate is growing, which is what that instrument project was all about to begin with. We are using Title IV to support our Panorama SEL survey work, Power School training when needed for staff, some additional SEL instructional materials, and other PD that are found in those areas as well. So lastly, and I'm kind of going around that circle there, that visual I shared earlier, but the application is the July piece. We've been working on the application all year. It's really that substantial, and we're taking from all of the other work that's been happening year round. So we're looking to secure $4.4 million for Lewiston. If you have all of the titles combined, it's a single application for all 4 titles. Within that application, I was detailed projects, detailed goals and scope of work for all of the things we're planning to do. We submit and wait for approval. Sometimes we go back and forth and fine tune some of that with the state. We are looking to have approved projects and to move forward right at the start of September. That's our our goal. And yeah, the state reviews that and we move forward once we can secure that money. Final slide here is that the information shared tonight, additional information about the title funds can be found on our district website. You go to the district information tab and drop down to ESSA or ESCA, both statute names for title funding. And you'll find the CNAs, but you'll also find other pieces that we're required to do in there that, at some point can certainly explain those other components as well. But you can reach out to me for questions. Oh, and then on the front page of the website is a Google form for public comment. So if looking through our uses of funds, thoughts and comments, folks can just go to the front page of the website. ESCA public comment is about, I don't know, halfway down the first front page, and you can click on that Google form, complete it. It's very simple. And there's also a link right next to it for a summary, like an overview that's just a page and a half, which kind of puts everything in a little bit of a package, but. So that's all I have, and happy to answer questions if there are any.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from members? Member Eames.
Thank you. Very helpful, always. And of course, the CNAs are huge, but very detailed and very informative. I'm curious about the fact that we don't yet, do we know that these numbers are what we're going to get, or we hope these numbers are what we're going to get?
The amounts, the money amounts, they are final now.
They're final.
Yes,
Okay,
they did change finals for a second time, but our understanding is it's definitely final, yes.
Yeah, Member Hawkins.
I don't have a question, just an observation. I'm not surprised to see the reading numbers go up. I know last year on my bus, one of my schools was doing something and suddenly all the kids are coming on with the same like slap bracelet stuffy, and they're all excited about this book they read. And the great part about that is they all had the same animal, they all learned it the same way, and they were all excited about reading for the rest of the year. They'd come on and show me, oh, look at this book I got at the library. I'm a book nerd, have been since I was old enough to read, so I always love to see that. But I know that in the last 10 or 15 years, that's been really dropping off across the board, not just in students, but in adults and young adults too. So that really made me happy. And doesn't surprise me in the numbers, because the excitement really made me happy to see, and it lets me know that we're doing the right work when we've got the funds to do it. So I'm glad to see all the work you and your colleagues are obviously putting into making sure that we keep this funding so that we can keep doing that.
Member Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ms. Derrigan. Great presentation. Thanks to you, to all the district employees, and there are a lot that put work into these, for all the CNA committees that met at each individual school, all the meetings they had, all the meetings that were held at the district level. There's a lot that goes into this, and it's very much appreciated. And that, $4 million goes quite a long way. So yeah, I'm very happy to see this. I won't go into a tangent about my thoughts on the NUIA itself or the growth percentiles versus the RIT scores themselves. That'll be for another day. But if the feds are okay with that, I'm okay with taking their money. In a perfect world, they would just give us the money, because in Lewiston, we manage money very, very well here. And so I wish they could just give us kind of like a block, just here's $4 million. You guys decide what to do with it. We trust you. And that would, go wonders. So it'd probably be a magic wand if I had to change that to make change. I'd do that. But in lieu of that, I think everything's set up very well here, and I'm very happy to see all this. And I guess at that, I would move to approve the ESEA application.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I heard Member Bowden on the mic for the second, so it was moved by Member Jensen, seconded by Member Bowden. Before any vote, are there any other comments or questions? I do just have a question and then a comment myself. So actually, somewhat related to what Member Jensen started to say there, is there any impact whether or not the district or the individual schools meet those goals or not? Does anything with the funding change? Does anything with what's required to go into next year's CNA change? If you could talk about that, I'd appreciate it.
Yes. So in addition to completing the work required to run a school-wide program and receive the funds, our schools, there's an accountability model that the state of Maine has in place. And so each of our schools has a very rigorous review of several different indicators. So growth and literacy growth and math attendance. At the high school level, it includes graduation. And multilingual is also a growth category or marker. So in that review for each of our schools individually, there are expectations that schools would need to make. And what would be best to do is to make sure I can get you some information on that, because each one of them is very different on how the state chooses to measure it. But ultimately, our schools potentially receive a tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 designation for school improvement. So we have schools that actually receive additional funds for school improvement, depending on that tier, or additional supports. It doesn't always come in the way of money, but it can be state coaching, or things like that. And they have a whole calendar year of additional requirements that they need to go through to do that work. It really aligns with what we already do in the CNA. We sort of have we've built our CNA in-house so that it covers school improvement work as well, because we potentially could have schools entering into a tier support and out of a tier support, which actually we have had this very last year. We have LMS exiting a tier 3, and we have other schools on tier 1 right now, which they're, again, it's difficult to say exactly what criteria each individual school has to meet those, but because they're looking at a lot of different criteria and scoring them in a lot of different ways. But Maine Model of School Supports is the name of the accountability model, and I hope that answers the question you were.
Yeah, it
looking
does.
to.
Yeah, and that does get to what my comment is going to be as well, which is that I do greatly appreciate all the work that goes into it, and also just as a committee member, and certainly if trying to read these, even just as my own self, but imagining a member of the public or a parent or something. I mean, these really are impenetrable, and because that's what's required, clearly, right? And so I appreciate the presentation to kind of highlight what we can help take away from this. It also makes me appreciate that we are trying to work on our own goal setting process, or we've set the goals, but carrying those out and working on those so that we can try to understand, as part of the state and federal funding process in this case, that these are the things required, but also trying to have something that is a little more easy to engage with, I suppose, for people broadly. But yeah, so I appreciate all the work that has gone into this.
Yeah, the strategic planning work done for each building and for the district, that's where the meat of what are we doing this upcoming year to help with improvement. So the action steps and the strategic planning, that's a huge part of the work that's being carried out beyond our requirement pieces. Yeah.
Thank you. Were you going to add something? No. Okay. Any other questions or comments before we vote? Okay, so again, the motion was to approve the application, moved by Member Jensen, seconded by Member Bowden. Let's see, are we back to Counselor Harriman, I think, for voting?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you could call the roll, thank you.
Counselor Harriman,
Yes.
Member Hawkins,
Yes.
Member Eames,
Yes.
Member Bowden,
Yes.
Member Jensen,
Yes.
and Chair McLaughlin.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, thank you for the presentation. So that brings us to agenda item number 3, which is to enter into executive session to conduct student A disciplinary hearing in accordance with Title 20A, Section 1001. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, second by
Second.
Reem. So all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, it is unanimous. We are now in executive session.